Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraftswoman Laura Pearson. We warmly welcome the family of Private William Marshall Aitken, whose story will be read shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors. To commence this evening's ceremony, I invite you all stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was a vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private William Marshall Aitken. William Aitken was born on the 2nd of April 1919 in Murwillumbah, New South Wales, to William and Margaret Aitken. The Aitken family moved to Kyogle when William was young, and he attended school there, as well as serving in the militia with the Kyogle Troop of the 15th Light Horse Regiment. The Kyogle Troop finished runners-up in the Lord Forster Cup for their drill as a Vickers gun section in 1935 and 1936, before winning the competition in 1938 and only just missing out on winning the coveted George MacArthur Onslow Trophy for the most efficient regiment in the 1st Cavalry Division. By the time the Second World War began, Aitken was working as a motor mechanic in Kyogle. Shortly after his 21st birthday on the 6th of June 1940, he enlisted for service in the 2nd AIF. He joined the newly raised 2nd 1st Pioneer Battalion and began training at Greta. About a month later, he spent 5 days in Greta Hospital with measles, but recovered quickly and returned to his unit. On the 2nd of September 1940, Aitken left Sydney aboard the transport ship Johann de Witt, bound for the Middle East. After arriving in Alexandria and then going into camp in Palestine in January 1941, the 2nd 1st Pioneers were sent to Tobruk. Here they helped restore the port and its facilities, repaired roads, and reclaimed engineering material. When the 6th Division left Egypt for Greece, the 2nd 1st Pioneers remained in Egypt and were attached to the 9th Australian Division. Aitken was wounded in action on the 29th of May 1941 during the siege of Tobruk. He was evacuated to a hospital in Egypt and spent over a month recovering before being posted to the Pioneer Training Battalion at the end of July. When the 2nd 1st Pioneers were relieved from Tobruk in September, the battalion returned to Egypt and Aitken rejoined his unit. After some rest and training, the 2nd 1st Pioneer Battalion returned to Australia. Arriving in Australia at the end of March 1942, Aitken used his brief period of leave to return to Kyogle and marry his sweetheart Florence Thompson. The couple would later have a son, David. After conducting engineering tasks around Brisbane and Ipswich, the 2nd 1st Pioneer Battalion deployed to Papua at the end of August. 3 of the battalion's companies were sent via Ubiri to Iobaiwa and then took up positions on Amita Ridge. The remaining company was sent to Milne Bay. After heavy fighting against the Japanese took place at both Amita Ridge and Milne Bay, the battalion was involved in the advance towards the New Guinea beachheads. After returning to Australia in late October 1943, the 2nd 1st Pioneers were sent to the Atherton Tablelands for rest, reorganisation and training. During this time, Aitken was promoted to acting corporal. On the 12th of December, Aitken went absent without leave and returned home. He handed himself into his unit on the 30th of December and after being charged, was reduced to the ranks and forfeited 18 days' pay. The 2nd 1st Battalion continued training in the Atherton area until the beginning of June 1945, when it left Townsville for the island of Morotai in the Moluccas. After 2 weeks of training here, the battalion embarked once again, this time bound for the island of Borneo. Aitken and the 2nd 1st Pioneers were part of the 7th Division's amphibious landing at Balikpapan on the island of Borneo in the 1st of July. A few days after landing, Aitken was part of a small team bringing 2 vehicles ashore on a landing craft. When the landing craft was fired on by Japanese artillery, a shell detonated nearby and Aitken was hit in the head and chest by shrapnel. His wounds were mortal and he died shortly afterwards. He was 26 years old. Aitken was laid to rest the following day in the Balikpapan War Cemetery. After the war, his remains were reinterred in the Labuan War Cemetery. Inscribed on his headstone is the epitaph, "His duty nobly done, ever remembered." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed beside the Pool of Resurrection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William Marshall Aitken, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Could you all please stand for the ode and last post?
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post-ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.